Dozens of people are searching for a missing hiker in the gorge.
21-year-old Riley Zickel set out on an overnight hike by himself.
Colorado County Sheriff's Office is searching for a missing hiker on the Olympic Peninsula.
John and Trevor Higgins, the father and son, were last seen Friday. They disappeared while hunting near Bear Camp Road above Agnes.
21-year-old Riley Zickel, the senior at Lewis and Clark College, disappeared.
An emotional plea from friends of a woman who is missing right now in the Skamania County wilderness. She's 19 years old, Maureen Kelly.
Searchers are looking for a 76-year-old farmer who did not come back from mushroom hunting near Grangeville.
Hello and welcome to the Pacific Northwest Missing Persons Project. I'm your host, Tanner Hoskins, Executive Director here at PNWMPP, and this week we have a special episode for you. I will be chatting with my good friend Jensen Huffman, and together we will discuss tough search and rescue topics, heroic dogs, disaster deployments, and a growing nonprofit that's changing the game. Jensen Huffman is a seasoned canine handler and the owner of Huffman Canine Obedience in Canby, Oregon. He's also the founder of Charon Canine Solutions and the executive director at Charon Human Advocacy Intervention Services, also known as C.H.A.I.S, C.H.A.I.S, a nonprofit that's focused on search and rescue recovery missions and supporting survivors of human trafficking through the work of specially trained canines. With over 2 decades of experience training and deploying working dogs across North America, Jensen has worked alongside law enforcement, first responders, and special operations teams. He is not only a tactical canine handler and consultant, but also holds a degree in chemical engineering with a focus on explosives. This brings a rare and powerful mindset to the search and rescue world. How are you doing today, Jensen?
I'm well, man. How are you? It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. It's been a long time.
It has been. I think we're approaching about a year since we last shook hands.
Yes, sir. But it was a good reason to get together back in September.
It was.
I have a lot of questions for you, and I'm pretty sure you've already looked through some of those. So let's start at the beginning. I try not to prepare too much so that this can flow more organically than me creating a written script, but we'll see how I do. That will probably mean that I mess a whole bunch of it up, and you'll have to go back in and re-edit and fix it, all the things that I broke. So that sounds good to me. I like a good challenge. Well, I'm happy to have you on, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, jump to it, and we'll see what we can come up with, and see if we can make it somewhat entertaining for folks.
Sounds good. Let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to launch C.H.A.I.S?
So C.H.A.I.S is an abbreviation. C.H.A.I.S is an abbreviation for Charon Human Advocacy Intervention Services. And going back maybe 5 or 6 years, I don't have an exact date for you, but David Price and I started a independent contract company that marketed explosive ordnance detection, firearms detection, narcotics detection, dogs to private and public sector stuff. It was a for-profit, or is a for-profit company. It's still going, where we do just that. So somewhere along the way, and a lot of our dogs were tracking dogs at the time, tracking trailing dogs. And those dogs were used for more law enforcement support than search and rescue. But at one point, we had been requested by a number of different families and then eventually agencies to come out and help them locate lost individuals, lost kids, and stuff like that. We were pretty successful with that. And when they said, can we pay you? We immediately said, of course not. Like, we don't, we're not out here to make money off of lost kids and terrified parents and that kind of thing. And one of the subject's mothers was a lawyer, and she kept insisting, like, how can I pay you guys? How, I'm so grateful for what you do. And she said, well, if you won't take my money, and my money's not good with you guys, then how would you feel about me donating my time to set up a 501c3 nonprofit so that others can donate to what you guys do and help you help other mothers find kids? And so that was a pretty reasonable thing, you know. I mean, obviously we all need help, and I'm not a lawyer. And so she and her firm were gracious enough to go through, and I think you have a 501c3, so you probably know what a pain in the rear end it is to go through all of that federal and state filing and application process. And I mean, it was a nightmare, right? And so having a law firm do it on our behalf was incredibly helpful. We accepted her help, and C.H.A.I.S was born. There was another seed that was planted at right about the same time. A really wonderful woman by the name of Kelly had come into our facility because she had recently lost a dog. Her brother was my tattoo artist, and he had told me about Kelly. And Kelly is this really wonderful woman who is the director for a state-run facility. And I'm not going to say names because some of this stuff is confidential, but a state-run facility that is a live-in residential living facility for juvenile female sex trafficking victims. And Kelly is one of those. Yeah. And Kelly is one of those humans that is like 5'0" and just a powerhouse of a woman, and is the kind of woman that if one of her kids calls and needs help, she kind of busts down doors in order to go help them. So I learned about her, and I learned about what her mission is in terms of helping the sex trafficking victims. And then I had heard that she had lost her current dog, and her current dog was some type of a bully breed, just to old age. And she was a woman that would get like death threats and stuff from traffickers who, you know, she's pulling these young girls away from and protecting them, and they would threaten and intimidate and that kind of thing, or attempt to intimidate. But Kelly is not one to be intimidated by anybody. And I said, Kelly, how can I help you do what you do? And she said, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, no. I'll go smash skulls, right? Like you point me in the direction, and she's like, Jensen, you can't go smash skulls. Like, we're in America, and you can't do that. And I said, well, what can I do, Kelly? Like, what can I do to help you? Can I give you a protection dog so that you feel safe as you go and do these things? And she was like, well, I mean, that's an amazing offer. And so we literally built her a protection dog here at Huffman Canine so that she could feel safe as she does all of these amazing things. And then as our relationship grew and built, you know, again, I came back to her and I said, Kelly, how can we help you? Like, how can I be there for you? And David Price, who's one of my very best friends and business partner back then, he's no longer a business partner with me, but, you know, we were like, Kelly, what can we do to help? And again, we offered to go smash skulls because, you know, these traffickers and these human slave owners and that kind of thing deserve to have their skull smashed. She fully again agree. Said, no, you can't go and take these girls. You can't help in that way. That's the police job. But one thing maybe you could do is, do you think your dogs would be able to come in and meet and greet the girls so that they have kind of a happy moment in their life? And so we brought our dogs in and we did a big protection demo and stuff like that. And one of the girls raised her hand and she said, is there any way that, you know, your dog Jax can come to court with me when I testify in front of her trafficker, her abuser? And so that kind of put the bug in Kelly and I's head. And then my wife got involved and we developed an entire mission around it so that now, you know, C.H.A.I.S C.H.A.I.S, once the 501c3 got set up and we developed our missions and you know how things grow organically, we now have two missions. Our first mission, in no particular order, is to provide therapy and safety dogs for juvenile victims of sex trafficking as they go in front of their abusers in court, depositions and any sort of testimony that they may give. We work now with various district attorneys in order to work with them and the victims that they are supporting. We work with various advocacy groups in order to pair with the victims. And what we really do is empower the victims to speak out against their abusers, so that the district attorney has a victim and a case against the trafficker. And so that's kind of where we found that we could support both the testimony side and the victim themselves and empower these young people who have been really stripped of all dignity and any sort of control over their life and that kind of thing, and place a very powerful and loyal animal with them so that they feel empowered to go do that. And then on the search and rescue side, we have continued to support local and national agencies as they embark on search and rescue operations, search and recovery operations. We have tracking and trailing dogs. We have live find area dogs, and we have human remains detection dogs that we now provide to our local and national agencies to help them on their mission of rescuing or recovering victims or subjects, I guess, from whatever has happened to them. So I don't know if that, I feel like that was a little broken up, but hopefully that kind of helps to understand what C.H.A.I.S is all about and kind of where we came from, because just like with anything really good, it's always complicated.
Yep, 100%. No, it sounds like you guys are doing basically God's work out there, ensuring that these kids feel protected, and just the work you've been doing and how much dedication you've given to this is amazing. You have my full support behind your team.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. And I think it's also really important to highlight that I am yet just a very small cog in the machine. The machine has grown. We now have 22 people that are part of our organization, either on the advocacy side or on the search and rescue, search and recovery side. And every single one of them is outrageously dedicated, amazingly kind, and philanthropic human beings that, just like you said, are sort of doing everything we can to help our fellow human, you know?
I know you brought up the search and rescue side, the case that you and I have talked about a little bit out of Clark County, and I might mispronounce this name, the Anthony Mancuso.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you nailed it.
Was a pivotal moment for your team. Is that correct?
That was the search for the young man whose mother was the attorney.
Okay.
And so, yeah, absolutely. That was the beginning of at least the search and rescue, search and recovery side of C.H.A.I.S.
Okay. I was making sure that I understood. As soon as you brought up the story of her, it started piecing together, but I wanted to make sure. Is there anything that you could tell me that you remember most from that case?
The case was really a classic deployment for a live find wilderness lost subject kind of case. It was actually really fascinating. Anthony was probably 15 at the time. And I forget the exact location that we were in, but it was in the St. Helens wilderness area. The trailhead for this area was incredibly busy. Like you can imagine a parking lot that would hold 50 to 100 cars. It's not like this is like a turn off the road onto a shoulder, gravel shoulder, and then walk into the woods at a trailhead. I mean, this is like they have public bathrooms that are concrete, I mean, and with a water fountain, and the off of the south side of the parking lot was the trailhead, and the trail was, for all intents and purposes, a 5-kilometer loop that looped back to the kind of backside of the parking lot, right? The trail itself was probably 2 meters wide. You could absolutely take a side-by-side down it, and it was a well-maintained raised gravel path. Okay. So, I always kind of tell people, like, this is a place that I would throw running shoes on, running shorts. I wouldn't wear a shirt. I wouldn't bring water. I wouldn't bring a pack. And I would knock out a 5K run from just to go out and run, right? Kind of environment. And Anthony and his mom and his sister had planned on going out on basically, a family walk / hike, probably not a hike from your standpoint, but a hike, right? From their standpoint. He was wearing appropriate apparel for the hike. He had on black Adidas running shorts, blue kind of Nike Tech, t-shirt, and Adidas woven, lace-up soccer shoes, right? Like turf shoes.
Yep.
And for this trail, that was honestly pretty darn appropriate. About 300 yards off of or into the trailhead, Anthony had said to his mom, I have to go to the bathroom, or he probably said, as a 15-year-old, I have to take a leak. And he stepped off of the trail and into the loop, right? So you can imagine a loop goes around, and you could step out of the loop or you could step into the loop, right?
Yep.
Well, he walked into the loop. So they were going clockwise, and he stepped into the right. Okay. So he's inside of this loop, and his mom could hear him urinating, like she could hear the urine hitting the ground. And that was the last that she had heard of or saw him.
Wow.
And it was a busy day. It was warm, probably in the 70s, 80s, early in October, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I could look in my photos, but, it was just a beautiful day to go for a walk. He stepped into the loop and disappeared. So the search started immediately for him. It's not like he disappeared and didn't come back that night, and the search started 24 hours later. Literally, the search started within moments of him stepping off of the path. Some interesting things, like the last photo that she had of him was him and his sister standing in front of the national park sign up in the St. Helens Wilderness, and like a classic 15-year-old boy. And I have two of them. I have a 19-year-old and 17-year-old. He was flipping off the camera. Okay. So you can imagine, right? Like, here's this 15-year-old boy, probably didn't want to go out into the, and go for a walk. He'd rather be playing Call of Duty or something on PlayStation. And here he has to go out on a walk with his mom and sister. Steps into the loop, disappears. So I get a call from a member of the law firm who I'm close friends with, and is actually now part of our board, Annalisa Smith, saying that one of her employees' sons have been lost. He's been lost for 24 hours. And, a Clark County Search and Rescue, National Guard, the kid's church, and everyone within the church, high school friends, had all shown up. There were hundreds of people who were actively engaged in the search in a very small area, right? 3.1 mile circumference loop, and he stepped inside of it. So I get a call, and she says, Jensen, will you come out and help? And we have a policy that we don't deploy based on family requests. We need to have approval from local law enforcement and the officer in charge of the search. This was an established search. It was being run by Clark County Search and Rescue. And we said, I mean, we'd be happy to come out. We have the dog. We have the time. We can come out and help. But we need approval from the sheriff or the officer in charge. And it took about 3 hours to get that. We showed up 28 hours after he had been lost or last seen. We started both my dog, Jax, and David's dog, Blue, on the track. David ran as a trailing dog. I was running point dog. I told them I don't want to know where the point last seen was. I know that he was on the trail. I know that he stepped off the trail. I understood all of that stuff, but I don't want to know where it is. I want the dog to tell me where it is. 28-hour aged track is a relatively aged track. I mean, it's a pretty old track for us. And we started down the track. Jax gave a huge head turn and indication. I called out like, "Hey, this is PLS," and the other search and rescue member from Clark County confirmed that was it. We continued down the trail for another maybe 100 feet, at which point Jax gave me a negative, took me back to that PLS, and we went into the loop. To be honest with you, that was the very first moment that I actually believed that he was potentially still out there.
Okay.
You know, the logic said that there's no way that this kid is still lost in this, you know, relatively limited area. And, you know, all you have to do is walk forward and eventually you'll hit the trail. And as long as you go right or left, you'll find your way back to the parking lot. Right. And he wasn't a special needs kid or anything like that. Both Jax and Blue confirmed that turn. We went to the edge of a steep precipitous, I guess, if that's the right word, basically a steep slide area. And both dogs confirmed that we should go down that slide. It was steep. It was, I mean, for all intents and purposes, potentially dangerous to go down. But we went down and dogs immediately got on track. Blue, who was the trailing dog, indicated on a article, which was a blue mask. We radioed that in. They did confirm that was consistent with the target packet, that he did have a blue mask. This was just after COVID kind of got going. And then we continued to track another 150 yards. Jax stuck his nose into a hole in the ground and locked up on the second article. We pulled him back and we found a black woven Adidas shoe. We called in, we confirmed that was in fact his shoe. Another probably 30 feet or 10 yards later, we found the second shoe that was buried in the mud about 12 inches deep. And based on those 3 points, Command Post was able to confirm direction of travel. They deployed a team into that area based on direction of travel and were able to locate Anthony about 100 feet up in a pine tree. He had eaten a bunch of pine needles, and so his throat was so swollen shut that he couldn't call out.
Wow.
And he was whistling to the best of his ability to get the search and rescue individual's attention who was underneath his tree.
Wow.
They brought in technical ropes. They got him out of the tree, and he was okay. So anyway, really interesting kind of deal. Anthony said that he had run from a cougar. I don't doubt him. I don't know. I wasn't there, and there's certainly cougar in the area. My guess is that he went out. He thought he'd play a prank on his sister and his mom and cut the loop in half. And he got spooked while he was down there because a 3.5 mile loop is actually a relatively large area. Felt like he got lost, probably heard some things in the woods, started to run, lost his shoes, had a bigger panic attack, ended up climbing a tree, and there he was stuck up in a tree. But anyway, kind of an interesting start to our search and rescue deal that we have with C.H.A.I.S. And that was really the instigating factor that, the mom said, I want to pay you. And we said, no, we're not going to take money from anybody. Thank you very much. And she said, well, can we start up a nonprofit that will allow you to take donations so that you can train dogs and you can go and do these things for more people. And so that's the story of where C.H.A.I.S actually started officially.
That's amazing. That is an incredible gift from somebody that understands what you're doing and sees the value in every second of your day of what you do. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was really cool. So anyway, yeah, that's the Anthony Mancuso story.
Wow.
But yeah, and we don't have unlimited time, but we actually went out and looked for Anthony a second time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to go deep into that one because there's some personal information there about him, but yeah. So you never know with people. So
no, you don't. Well, at least it was successful with both.
Yeah.
Yep. There's something deeply emotional about how a handler and a dog work together, and just seeing that relationship just with you in the field before back in September in Squim, seeing the way that you can work with your dogs. Has that carried you through some of the more difficult missions that you've deployed on?
Yeah, I think, you're like when we met in Squim, your team was a very close-knit team, right?
Yep.
You weren't individuals. You were a group that struck me as being very close friends. There was a love between you guys, right? And so having people and partners around you that are loyal and dedicated and have the same mindset as you, I think goes a really long way. I think, in being humans, there are times where we all feel quite empty and quite lonely, where you would love to have somebody there, but they're simply not there. And you're alone, like you're alone in being a father, or you're alone in being a mother, or you're alone and getting your work done, or feeling sad, lost, depressed, whatever the case is. A dog is one of those, like, their loyalty is infallible, right? They don't love you because of like selfish reasons, right? They love you because they love you, right? It's you. It's not like a climb and lift relationship, right? It's not, the dog loves you. And so having a being there who is truly, there just because is incredibly powerful. I don't really know how to describe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah, as I look over here, it's like I have Jax with me, and he's just snoozing over there. But if I stand up, he stands up.
Yep.
And if we go out, like he'll go out and he'll just follow me, and then I get in the car and he jumps in the back seat, and the dog are a constant presence. There's no manipulation to them. They are truly honest in their intentions. They don't have the capacity of lying. It's like they are just simply there and they're present. And even when they do something really ridiculous and stupid, like poop on the floor or chew up a bed or something like that, they're honest about it. Like there's no lie behind their motivation. And I think that that's a very powerful thing. And taking it back to the advocacy work that we do with these young women, mostly young women, although, we would absolutely support young men. And that's an entirely different conversation of young men who are being actively trafficked for the purposes of sex. But if you think about it from these young people's perspective, they have a huge amount of data that says that humans are scary and dangerous, that they can't trust people, that in many cases it was a mother who trafficked their daughter. In some cases it was an uncle. In some cases it was a boyfriend or a husband or a father, whatever. They have a huge chunk of data that says that I can't trust a human. And it's pretty reasonable to feel that way. The dogs are able to create a relationship with these individuals that, as a human man, I can't begin to attempt to create.
Yep.
Reasonably, they will never trust me, because men have hurt them or humans have hurt them. But dogs, they're just simply there. And when that dog snuggles up to them, there's no fear, at least from the standpoint of this individual is going to manipulate me. This individual is going to, breach truth and trust with me. They're there, and they're honorable, and they have just a natural integrity without never ever knowing what integrity is. And so there's a truth about that relationship that develops very quickly. And they actually feel safe with another being, which I think is what creates such a empowerment for them. They know that dog will be there for them and with them without expecting anything in return. So anyway, they're always helping us, right? I can't imagine, being a person without a dog.
Yep.
There's so much more than, the human relationships that I have,
Yep. I feel the same way with my dog that doesn't do half the work yours does, but I can trust her to watch over Ozzy and protect my house and my family. And there's something special about a canine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all the way down to a genetic level. Like that's what makes a dog versus a wolf or a coyote, right? A dog is that domesticated creature. And part of that domestication is their desire to bring humans into their pack or to be part of the human family unit. There's a true genetic desire to build that relationship and have that relationship. And so I think that's an important piece to what they are,
Fully agree. It's a beautiful thing to see, man. I was very lucky to get to see it in person with your team.
Yeah, and our team is really wonderful. The way that they treat their dogs, the way that they honor that relationship, I think is very, very powerful. There's no question that we treat them like working dogs. We treat them like a partner. But at the end of the day, they are our best friends. And, they earn that title through moving through very difficult situations together. And again, I'm sure that you can appreciate this. I mean, that the members of your team, they're close to you because you have experienced hard things with them.
Yep.
And so as we do this with our dogs, with each hard experience we go through together, that bond gets deeper and has a greater weight to it, I guess, a better density to it. So, yeah.
Well, speaking on the topic of difficult terrain, difficult deployments, would you mind talking to me a little bit about Hurricane Helene?
Yeah. So, let's see. It is, what is it? June 2025, June 30th. Man.
Yep.
So this was last October. Hurricane Helene had a very strange and interesting path that came up, if I remember correctly, through the Gulf of Mexico and built a tremendous amount of strength and slammed into the southeast, causing, strangely, like we think of hurricanes as causing a lot of like the issues on the coast, right? With these big winds and stuff like that. Where it really caused a tremendous amount of issue was the way that the weather patterns formed. It dumped a tremendous amount of moisture that it had picked up in the Gulf of Mexico over the area of eastern Tennessee and western South and North Carolinas. And those areas were not accustomed to that level of moisture that was dumped in that area. And because of that, it created a tremendous amount of flooding. And it was the flooding that was so disastrous in all of the areas that, I mean, the smallest creek went through to the largest river. To put it into perspective for your listeners, if you guys are in Oregon, and I mean, you can begin to kind of look these things up, but imagine the Clackamas River, which is a pretty decent sized river, swelling to the size of the Willamette. And the Willamette River swelling to the size of the Columbia. But it didn't just swell over 48 hours or 3 days or 4 days. The depth of these rivers rose 18 to 23 feet in the space of 3 hours.
Wow.
And, it was one of those things that, I mean, you look back in history and nobody in that area had seen rivers swell to this level in recorded history, right? Like, I mean, when did we get to those areas of the United States? I don't know, like 1700s or something like that.
Yep.
And from the beginning of sort of our nation's recorded history, they'd never seen floods get that big in that area before. The amount of debris that was caught up in these rivers, I mean, imagine the Clackamas swelling to the size of the Willamette in 3 hours. The debris would get caught up in the flood waters and then would get caught in what were called strainer points. So areas of really heavy duty tree coverage or something like that. And all of this debris would pile up in these strainer points. And the debris piles, I mean, just like we've all walked along, our Northwest rivers, and we see how debris piles up where, there's a sandbar or something like that. So imagine those debris piles with, everything in it, from the tent, the tarp, those kind of things. But extrapolate on that to a debris pile that is 30 to 40 feet deep, in elevation, and 300 to 400 yards long.
Wow.
So, we're just talking massive amounts of debris. And where do these things pile up? Well, one source of a strainer point would be a bridge that a 2 or 3 lane road goes over. And now you have hundreds and hundreds of tons, thousands of tons of debris piling up against these bridges, creating dam-like environments until these bridges literally rip out from the foundations, sending the concrete bridge half a mile downstream in these massive flash floods. Hundreds of, if not thousands of people were affected. Many people were unable to get out of their homes in time. And homes were ripped in half. They were carried downstream. The homes were piled up against one another. I remember describing it to my partner who went out there with me, Don Jacobs, as it looks like in where the floods hit, it was like an atomic bomb blast. Wow. Where massive trees were just laid over like toothpicks, kind of like what the St. Helens post-blast trees look like, where they were all laid down flat. That's kind of what it would look like. The destruction was just absolutely devastating. But it was also very interesting because at the edge of the destruction, like, I mean, a river has a finite bank to it. Like there's an edge to the water, and you would have, I mean, just these beautiful homes with the American flag hanging off of it, and beautifully manicured grass. And then in a space of about 3 inches, everything on the river side of this boundary looked like an atomic bomb blew up. It was wild to see it. And I can't even begin to describe it so that your listeners can fully appreciate it without standing in the middle of it, just looking at this like, this is God's power. This isn't, I mean, this is God power, right? It was wild. So
truly devastating reminder of what Mother Nature can and will do at any given time if it wants.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And none of these people were prepared, because this is not an area that has to worry about hurricanes, right? Like if you live on the Panhandle, I mean, well, that's easy, or the Florida area. It's like, well, you better be ready for a hurricane, and everything is built for a hurricane, and you already have the plywood in the garage to be able to go over and latch on the windows, But these were not areas that were even remotely prepared for anything like this, and because it ripped away bridges and roads, so much of the population who lived in the rural areas were entirely and completely cut off from absolutely everything. A significant amount of the power grid was above ground. And so they were without power for weeks and months. There was no internet connection to these areas. There was no cell phone connection to these areas. All of the hard lines were ripped out. And so they were entirely isolated in the rural areas. Many of the towns that rivers ran through, anything within 200 to 300 yards of the rivers that ran through these towns were not 2 or 3 feet underwater like we would imagine a flood, Yeah. We're talking 25 feet underwater, or 22, 23 feet underwater. And of course, the debris that went through the towns would rip buildings off from the foundations. And, you begin to think about like, walk through Portland, and where do you find a lot of the homeless people camping? Well, on the Willamette River bank.
Yep.
Like that's where they camp out. And they don't have the warning that other people do. And so many different populations were affected in such a massive way. But yeah, I don't know. I go deep into it just to try to give the listeners kind of an idea of what we saw out there. But it was crazy.
Yeah, I can only imagine, just based off of what you shared. It sounds like biblical devastation.
Yeah, it really was. That is exactly the way that I would describe it. Biblical devastation, especially in the areas that were directly affected.
Wow. How did you guys find yourselves deploying out to that region?
Yeah. So now you're asking questions that will create some controversy and that kind of thing, which is good. I like controversy. I don't mind it.
Me too.
So Don Jacobs was the individual that deployed with me. I have Canine Tulip. Canine Tulip had been certified in human remains detection, or she was a cadaver dog, human remains detection dog. And he has been a longtime search and rescue person. I started in search and rescue in 2001, maybe end of 2000. So I've been doing it a long time in one capacity or another. And so Don and I decided to deploy together. We knew that we were needed out there, but of course we also didn't have a lot of the connections in Tennessee and North Carolina. One of the groups that we had, I guess what I'll call a light partnership with, is a group called Grindstone Ministries. Absolutely tag them in this thing. And they do a lot with creating IFAC kits for disaster preparation. They are committed, like their mission is, especially over in the Southeast, to help people prepare for disasters and then respond to disasters. They're a Christian-based group that just does a tremendous amount of fantastic work. So in any case, we had connected up with them through, the IFAC sales, because we're a big proponent of being prepared, whether it's in your car or in your hiking pack or whatever, to have your individual first aid kit. And so we had gotten to know them through that. And one of our board members, Sarah Eshelman, had actually been, I may get this wrong, but kind of a social media rep for them, and had connected up with them previously. And so we saw on the gram, I think, that they were deploying into the Helene disaster area. And we reached out to them and we said, hey, how can we help? And they had connected us. They said, man, I know that human remains detection dogs are needed, will be needed. We don't quite know where they need to be needed, but we have a representative from Tennessee Emergency Management at their location. So TEMA, Tennessee Emergency Management Association. And they said, why don't you talk to our representative from TEMA? And they were also in Carter County. And so TEMA and Carter County were working closely together because on the Tennessee side of things, that was one area where the Elk River and the Nolichucky River kind of ran through, and those were two of the hardest hit areas. We talked to TEMA, and they said, yes, we absolutely need you. Please come out. And so we literally loaded up the cars. We loaded up, everything that we needed. We bought the plane tickets. And then we reached out literally on our way to the airport, and TEMA said, okay, we think that we have everything contained in Carter County. So we're going to put you guys on standby. And we were like, okay, we literally have all these tickets. We have everything. So we made the call to fly out there and make ourselves available. Yep. And that's essentially exactly what we did. We flew out there on October 3rd. We landed, I think we actually flew out on the 2nd. We landed either late on the 2nd or early on the 3rd. And we basically started making calls. And we reached out to Grindstone Ministries. They said, you need to reach out and talk to this group that's working in South Carolina. We talked to that group. They said, yes, please come down. And I'm now forgetting their name, although they deserve credit too. We drove 5.5 hours down to that location. Our deployment goal was very, very simple. We are there to help people. That's it. We don't have to work a dog. We're just there to help people. And so, I remember, it's Aerial Recovery Group. And that's a group, by the way, that you need to look up. Aerial Recovery Group. It's a group of retired special operations and special forces that have come together to create a wonderful 501c3. They are like what I want to be in 10 years, kind of thing. And they were working out of South Carolina and some of the devastated areas down there. We get down there, we say, how can we help? They say, grab a chainsaw. We need to get this tree off this house. So our first day was cutting a tree off of a house. They then said, we just got a call from Carter County asking if we have, and remember, we were just in Carter County. We get the tree off the house. They get a call from Carter County saying, do you know of any human remains detection dogs? And they say, yeah, actually, they just drove down there from Carter County. So we drove back up to Carter County. We met with the Carter County Emergency Management Group up there. And at that point, our dog work really kicked into gear. We were brought on to the search and rescue and search and recovery operations being run by FEMA It was Nevada Task Force 1 that was running it out of Washington County and Carter County. We were teamed up with Johnson City Fire Department and a SAW crew that they had and a swiftwater rescue group that they had. We were brought out onto an island to search an island. We were then connected with like Elizabeth City Fire Department to go work in another area. We then did confirmation work with the human remains dogs on the Nevada Task Force 1. And so we worked directly with them. And then eventually we were connected with TBI, which is Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and TEMA. And we were deployed for 3 days straight into the Elk River Canyon and did some work on the Nolichucky River. So we spent 8 days there in total. We worked with just so many different, incredibly professional and dedicated teams out there. Every one of them was incredibly welcoming. I felt like we worked really, really well with every single one of those teams and deployed with each one individually. And it was an amazing experience.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you were able to get out there and do that work. It's amazing to hear that somebody from, like, if I was in a bad scenario, 2,000 miles away comes out to help me and my family. They come out to go look for my friends. Like, that's a huge, huge commitment. And I'm very happy that you guys were able to deploy for that.
It's, this would be the second disaster that I've ever sort of participated in or deployed to. The first one was actually the fires that we had. What was it in
2020?
2020, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was and my friend David Price, we participated on a line crew in the Malala area.
Yep.
And cutting fire line. And I tell you what, I mean, as sad as it is to go into a disaster area, every single time that I've been a part of the recovery operations, it's almost like a newfound patriotism that I have, because the people that show up, the people that don't sit at home and watch it from a distance, but the people who actually show up in their ATVs and their 4-wheel drives, in their jeans and their backpacks and their hemp ropes, you know, I mean, these what I would call a redneck crew. These are some of the most American human beings I've ever met in my life. And I'm just absolutely honored to even get to know them. It makes all the hair on my arms stand up, even talking about these people, because they are the most red-blooded Americans that I've ever met in my life. All of the prejudices, the race, the religions, the socioeconomic classes, there's no woman and man. It is just Americans helping Americans and people helping people, and doing whatever they can to help one another. It is hands down the most inspiring thing that I have ever had the honor of participating in.
Yep.
And I mean, like, FEMA got a terrible rap down in Tennessee, but the truth of the matter is that every single FEMA member that I met was there because they cared. Yep. And they were, up to their waist in toxic sludge and cutting through debris and working heavy equipment. And I mean, they were there because they wanted to help people. And every one of the professional SAR members was there because they wanted to help people. I mean, they were helping their neighbors. They weren't part of FEMA. You know what I mean? They had the uniform, but everybody was just amazing. It was really cool.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that's something that we've noticed too, is even within our group that we all get along and enjoy each other. When we set out for that sole purpose of helping and assisting, no matter what our differences are at home, it goes out the window. We're there for a purpose. We're all bonding. We're all, and like you said, politics, religion, everything out the window. We got a job to do, and we all find ourselves loving each other more just by having experience together. And
yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up. It's something that I would like to see happen a lot more in this country, of just coming together, sole purpose unification of stuff, hopefully without a disaster.
Yeah, I know. And that's the really hard part of this whole thing is, I mean, the disaster is the catalyst for Americans to come together and be an American, right?
Yep.
Why do we need a disaster to do that? Like,
Yep.
Why can't we just help people? You know, I said, oh man, you're asking about the controversial stuff, you know, because you asked about the deployment, right?
Yep.
You could absolutely argue that we self-deployed, meaning that we got on the aircraft, we flew to Knoxville, Tennessee. That's the name I was looking for. Knoxville, Tennessee. We landed on the ground, and then we made ourselves available.
Yep.
We didn't say we're available for human remains work. We said we're available, right?
Yep.
I'm in decent shape. I know how to run a chainsaw, although I got better at it out there. You know, I can go door to door and make sure that people have insulin. I can talk to people, and when they say that they need a generator, I can relay that information back to incident command, and we can get them a generator. Like, I can do a lot of things to help other people, and that was our main mission, and that was our motivation. So did we self-deploy? Yeah, I guess we did self-deploy, but then we made ourselves available to the local search and rescue, the federal search and rescue and recovery groups, the fire departments and the sheriff departments. We never actually put boots on the ground in the disaster area without a absolute knowledge and backing of incident command in every single one of the search areas that we were in. They deployed us into those areas, and they told us where to be. And then we did our job in the very best way that we knew how to do it in those areas. And I can absolutely, without any fear of or hesitation, say that we added huge value into those areas. So I feel very good about it. But of course, the internet warriors were just as busy as they could possibly be, hammering away at their keyboards, bitching and moaning about how we self-deployed, and, you know, they sat in their dark bedroom complaining about how other people were helping people.
Yep.
So, you know, yeah,
it tends to be that way. Yeah. Yeah. Damn right.
I'll own it all day long. In fact, in preparation for this, I looked back through my notes in terms of what are the takeaways that we took from this deployment. And I'll read this because it's number one. And when I say number one, it's one out of 3 pages of bullet points. Okay.
Wow.
Here's number one. It says, leave sooner. Once boots are on the ground, there is so much chaos. It will take a day or two until we can be utilized effectively. We left 3 days too late. A large part of being deployed by an agency is your availability. If you are in front of them, you are available. If you are in another state or you are a plane ride away, you are unavailable and will not be utilized.
Yep.
That was my number one takeaway from this entire thing. So as, you know, all of these search and rescue internet keyboard warriors were bitching and moaning about, this self-deployment in their respective states, whether that be Texas or Florida or California or Oregon or Washington, they were making themselves unavailable.
Yep.
And without any doubt, had they taken their skills that they have been working so hard to accumulate and simply put themselves into the Knoxville airport and went out to one of the aid stations that were supplying, and just simply stood behind one of those folding tables and handed people a clean towel,
yep,
or wet wipes or insulin or, whatever.
Yep.
They wouldn't have the time to talk shit about everybody on the
Yep.
internet. And B, they would have made someone's life a little bit easier. I'm a huge proponent of self-deployment into and making themselves available to incident command.
Yep.
How's that?
I like that.
Cool.
That's something that I took on was a kid that was missing here on the Oregon coast in the Siletz River. Technically, I self-deployed. I made myself available. I drove down there, happened to come across the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, told them, hey, I'm going to be walking the riverbank. Where do you need me? And they gave me a job to do because I showed up prepared and ready to get dirty and wet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it takes. And I could have sat at home and watched the news and hoped, and I could have got online and said something on there, but there's a drive to go help people. And if you have the time to sit on the internet and bitch and complain about how someone else is doing something, make yourself more available and go get out there and do something.
Yep. And you hit the nail on the head. You got in front of the incident command. And it's important to be part of the incident command. Like, you have to be part of that chain of command. Because and this goes to the credit of all of the people bitching and moaning about self-deployment. You can't go into the search area and become a victim, right? Yep. That takes away resources from search and rescue professionals who are actively trying to find somebody else.
Yep.
And so you have to be part of the incident command in some way, shape, or form. In Helene, they used CalTopo and StarTopo.
Yep.
And it was really great to see, but they managed all of the search and rescue deployments to all of the different sectors that were priorities through the CalTopo. And they would give us a sign-in link, and they would assign us this specific search area. And when we started within that area, we would turn on the tracking function in CalTopo. And then in real time, our location and our area of coverage would be relayed to, incident command. And so they would see where we were in real time. They would be able to watch what we were doing in real time. And I think that that's also very important. We can't just show up and pretend like we're doing things. Like, we have to be part of the solution. Otherwise we become part of the problem. But the big lesson is make yourself available sooner, especially in these large searches.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Which brings me to a little bit of something that you brought up. You said that you were physically fit and in good shape, able to deploy on these type of things. Which is something that we hear about all the time. I sometimes catch a little bit of it myself when I tell somebody, hey, you're physically able, let's go do this thing. Would you like to touch base on what it means to be fit to serve?
This is a big passion thing for me. So I think that there are So fit to serve, right? We have our emotional fitness and our physical fitness. It's kind of funny. You're bringing up all of the stuff that it was crucial from the Helene deployment, right? Our first takeaway from the Helene deployment was leave sooner. The number 2 was physical and mental fitness are critical. So it's kind of funny. You're going down the list, having never seen my list of takeaways. Physical and mental fitness. So, there are a lot of different jobs within search and rescue and search and recovery. There are canine handler jobs. There are support members who go out with a handler and canine, who run map and compass, communication, CalTopo, all of those necessary things, note taking, and that kind of stuff. You have individuals at base camp who are expert at ham radio. You have your emergency medical folks who are EMTs and paramedics. You have heavy equipment operators. You have saw crews, and who are generally like fire crews or wilderness fire crews who are able to clear debris. You have strategists at base camp. You have law enforcement. And then just to give credit where credit's deserved, there were these 2 incredible women who pulled me off to the side. They were nurses from a local pharmacy, and they gave me a fresh tetanus shot and hepatitis shot. And they were, of course, located back at the high school at the Incident Command Center. There are people who are doing decontamination of vehicles, of the search and rescue personnel and the canines who were in the areas. There's an infinite number of jobs. There are the old folks, the 75-year-old woman who has attended church every single week for the past 50 years, handing out, fresh linens and fresh clothes for people who lost everything, and the housekeepers who are manning the FEMA shelters, right? So there's a million different job sets out there. To deploy into the field, you cannot be a liability, and physical fitness is a really important piece to that. C.H.A.I.S has, I think, very stringent physical fitness requirements and physical testing that we do to make you eligible for deployment within our organization. And then I think one that people really overlook is mental fitness. And that's something that I feel like I wish I had a better handle on, because I'm a student of mental fitness. I want to figure out how to help people become more mentally fit. In a society where I see our general population becoming less and less mentally fit and emotionally fit. But there was no doubt about it. To give credit to Dawn Jacobs, who I went out there with, one of the most mentally fit and physically fit humans I know. He dedicates himself to training daily. And has an attitude that, I don't even mean to joke. Like, he opens his mouth and sunshine radiates from it.
I love those kind of people.
I know. He is perpetually in a good mood. And the more difficult a situation gets, the more fun he's having.
Yep.
And his attitude is one of the most contagious attitudes I've ever seen. Literally in the 7 days, 8 days that we were boots on the ground, not once did a single complaint leave his mouth. Not once. I mean,
wow.
Like there were jokes. I mean, we joked, right? Like there was fun banter. But I'm not kidding. I mean, the guy's mental fitness was legendary. I mean, I will deploy with him if he will do me the honor of deploying with me again. I would deploy with him anywhere in the world, under any circumstance. He's just that guy, right? I think that
speaks volumes of his character.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely character, right? You're absolutely right.
Yep.
You know, and to give you credit, like, you know, when we deployed, you know, you said that you were partially disabled, I think. I'm trying to quote what you said. When you first got out of the car. Partially? Okay. When you first got out of the car, I was
just one leg.
Just one leg, right? And I hope you don't take offense to this, but when you got out of the car, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I mean that in the nicest way, but I was like, really? And then I saw your mental fitness as we went through the weekend that we were up in Sequim. And your mental fitness far eclipsed your physical ability. And you were able to do absolutely everything and anything that anyone out there needed you to do.
And as long as my body will let me, I'll continue it.
I know. It was awesome. And you and Dawn need to meet at some point. I'm sure you will. The two of you will hit it off to no end and you won't shut the hell up. But, you know, like I have never heard you complain. Anything is like, hell yeah, I'll try it. Like, why wouldn't I? You know what I mean?
It might take me a little bit longer than my able-bodied peers. It might take me a little bit, like a few seconds longer to climb that hill. Yeah. But I'm going to do it.
Yeah. You're going to get up the hill, right? It's, and search and rescue isn't a race. It's not like, you know, somebody has to, complete a marathon in under 3 hours or anything like that. But I think that the mental fitness component is a far greater importance than the physical fitness, but the physical fitness I think is also critical. And I think that they go hand in hand. Generally someone who is physically fit is also mentally fit because they appreciate and enjoy doing hard things.
Yep. That's where I thrive. You give me a challenge, I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's what's most important. Now, when you see somebody who is 60 pounds overweight, who is, you know, oftentimes their mental fitness corresponds quite tightly with their physical fitness. And
yes.
And that's where I think, you know, there's a lot of people within the search and rescue community who are doing search and rescue because they want a search and rescue sticker on the back of their car.
Yep.
You know, they want to say, I'm part of whatever search and rescue team. And what I've found, and this is also what pisses the search and rescue community off about me is that, I oftentimes say, like, most of the teams that you run into, like the county teams and stuff like that, if you have 100 people on that team, 6 of those team members will be crushers. The other 94% or the other 94 team members are bureaucrats that are putting rules in the way of the 6 crushers from going out and actually doing really good things. That's what I've found.
I've seen some of that myself.
Yeah. And I also don't want to diminish. I mean, I think that, someday I will also be 75 and I won't have the body that is able to deploy. And I hope at that point I can still contribute by, having the experience to work within the incident command structure, to strategize, to at least donate what I still can at that point, which is knowledge and experience. But I absolutely, I hope that I will be able to be at a point where I can say, you know what, I'm no longer physically able to participate without becoming a liability. And this is how I can participate. You know what I mean? And be helpful.
Yep.
That's kind of how I see it. But
Well, it's like you said earlier, when you deployed to Helene, whether somebody is able-bodied or not fit enough or unsure of being able to maybe deploy into the terrain, they're still, as long as they have that dedication and that drive to go help, there is a job somewhere within the volunteer spectrum of being able to step in and do something, whether that's disinfecting or checking on houses or checking somebody or talking to somebody. There are roles out there for those individuals. It might not be in the field, but you're still making a difference and an impact on somebody.
Right. Yep. I absolutely agree with that.
And I know that we're running long, but there's something else I want to bring up. Something that I learned from you this week called TEEX, training and fundraising. And a lot of this goal for my podcast today is to bring awareness to what you guys are doing. Can you speak a little bit about what this training is and what it means to you and how our listeners can assist?
Yeah. So as part of our sort of organization's growth and development, we have partnered as the canine assets for some of our local county fire and rescue, urban search and rescue team members. And this is generally different than the sheriff search and rescue. It's fire and rescue that run the urban search and rescue side of things. And
Okay.
so FEMA, right, the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA, they are focused on urban search and rescue. Most of their employees and professional search and rescue, search and recovery personnel are fire and rescue personnel, right? So firemen and firewomen. So we have partnered as the urban search and rescue and search and recovery canine teams with our local fire and rescue team. TEEX is the Texas A&M engineering school extension service that provides a tremendous amount of the FEMA training for the FEMA search and rescue, search and recovery personnel. In some cases, the FEMA groups actually do the training. In other cases, fire and rescue professionals will be sent to Texas A&M down in Texas to learn the urban search and rescue side. So urban search and rescue is like heavy structure, right? A building falls down that has concrete reinforced walls, for example. that now you're into urban search and rescue and dealing with all of the hazards of hazmat, confined space, falling through things falling on top of you and all of that stuff. So as part of our partnering with the urban search and rescue side, we're hoping to send 6 canine handlers down to the Teak School in October. The specific class that we'll be taking is called the Canine Search Specialist Instructor-Led Training. The class itself per individual cost $1,700. And we're hoping to be able to send people down there and, be able to pay for their housing while they're there, be able to pay for their food. And so what we're hoping to be able to raise is $18,000 total to be able to provide 6 team members with the ability to go down there and take this class so that we can certify them as Type 1 and Type 2 canine search specialist teams. So that we can better integrate, more effectively and efficiently integrate with national urban search and rescue teams so that we can continue being as excellent as we can possibly be when we do go to these deployments. So that's what we're currently trying to fundraise for that. We're currently trying to raise money to help send our teammates down there.
If any of our audience is wanting to be a part of C.H.A.I.S's mission and get you guys down there, what's the first step that they can take?
So you can always reach out to me. I'm an open book. That's probably a stupid thing to say because I could get all sorts of weird requests, but I'm more than happy to field questions. You can reach directly out to me at Jensen, JENSEN.H at CHAISinc.org. Now, C.H.A.I.S is spelled in a unique way, so it's CHAISINC.org, O-R-G. And I'm sure you can maybe post that somewhere. So Jensen.H at CHAISinc.org. And I'm more than happy to field questions. I'm more than happy to engage in conversation. If you're interested in volunteering with us, reach out to me and I'm happy to provide some information on that. If you are only able to share our mission, you can go to our Instagram and our Facebook profile and share our social media to the world. We would appreciate that, and please like and follow and do all of those kind of things. If you are able to and financially able to contribute to our training and fundraising goals so that we can continue to deploy around the country and help our fellow Americans and our fellow people in future disaster situations. Hopefully they never come, but if they do, we want to be ready. You can go to our website, which is www.CHAISinc.org. And you can click on donate now or donate today. And you can go in and you can contribute to our general funds where we're allocating those donations how we see fit, in order to best help either our search and rescue or advocacy work. Or you can pick and choose and say, you know what, I feel really passionate about the work that you guys are doing with child trafficking and sex trafficking work and the advocacy work. And you can say, hey, I want this money to go to our advocacy side. You can also pick and say, you know what, I was involved in a natural disaster. The work that you guys are doing is so important. I want my money to go to that search and rescue side. And you can donate there. and we're grateful for that. We are a federally and state recognized 501c3, so you get a receipt and it is a tax write-off for you. So we would be grateful for that as well. And I feel like we have a lot of disclosure as far as like, here's how our money is spent. We have no one on salary, so nobody makes any money from a personnel standpoint. All of our money goes to either training or goes to the housing and deployment of our team members when they go out and help people. So I think that's important because none of us want to make any money off of this. There's no salaries. There's nothing like that. So I think that's an important thing that people aren't contributing to my income.
That totally understand. That's something that made our board of directors for PNWMPP really enjoy having us work with you guys. Is we do the same thing. None of the money goes to lining our pockets in any way, shape, or form. It's used in the field and for our training purposes and moving right along.
Yeah. I think eventually there as we grow, I think as a 501c3, we're going to have to hire somebody on the admin side,
Yep.
And because I think with a paycheck comes some accountability and deadlines and stuff like that. And I'm sure you can appreciate having a lot of volunteers work with you. It's really hard to hold somebody accountable to a deadline when they're volunteering their time,
Yes, it is.
So I think eventually we probably will move into someone being on a salaried side of things, but currently there's not a single paycheck that is given out, and so anyway, and we all feel really good about that right now. So
you guys are doing amazing work, and I speak highly of you anytime I get the chance to bring up what you guys do. And I hope our listeners are really listening to your message right now. And if I can get you guys to donate to C.H.A.I.S, you don't have to donate to PNWMPP. This mission that C.H.A.I S is doing is truly amazing, and I can't speak highly enough about it.
Well, I appreciate you, and working with you guys up in Sequim was a really wonderful experience. It was the beginning of, I think, a lot of great friendships and also potential coordination as we move forward. It's always nice to meet people who are dedicated to the training and dedicated to just generally helping others. And so that's what it's all about. I don't know if you saw the signature line that I have in terms of kind of why we do what we do. Have you seen any of that stuff?
Yep.
The Edmund Burke.
I've seen your signature. Yep.
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 It's when bad men combine, the good must associate, else fall a pitiable. Oh man, wait! Now I'm forgetting it. I have to pull it up. What is it? When bad men combine. Hold on. I look at it all the dang time. Here we go.
Yep.
Found it. When bad men combine, the good must associate, else they will fall one by one in unpitted sacrifice in a contemptible struggle. That is my favorite quote. It is kind of the driving force of a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis is looking for really good people to associate with and work with so that we can fight the evil on our planet, which, man, over the last couple of weeks seems to be really pushing hard.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. There's a whole host of more questions I could ask, and I would love to get you on the podcast again anytime that you're free and willing to continue with our conversations. And I'm going to have to wrap it up just because we're over about an hour and a half in, which is going to be the longest podcast I've had so far.
Well, I'm sorry. I sometimes I talk too much.
No need to apologize. You're telling our listeners a lot of things that I would like to be able to tell them on my own, but having you on here is a great thing. And I'm sure they enjoy having a guest instead of just hearing my voice constantly.
Well, I'm grateful to be here and, more than happy to be on again at some point. And, I have a podcast, but I'm not going to pitch it, but maybe we'll have you on that one. Return the favor.
Sounds good. Jensen, thank you for sharing your journey, your insights, and truly the incredible impact of C.H.A.I.S and the Huffman Canine team. It's what you guys are doing cannot be shared enough, and I cannot speak highly enough. There's no words to describe how I feel about your team.
Well, I appreciate that, and looking forward to the future.